That's working. Right, that should be all good. We should be live on YouTube, Jeff.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
And anyone else who's responsible.
Well, I'm not responsible. Yes, we are. We are here. We are live on YouTube, and we are looking at a market which is incredibly hot, actually. So let's just double check what we got going on here. That's going to go out there. So I'm just going to share screen. Good morning, Brian. Let's share this screen. There we go. There's a lot of volatility this morning. Just the market is floating about, certainly in a shorter area right here. But whether that's going to play out, I don't know. The market's very, very hot. I think, the way I'm looking at it, there are technical reasons to be looking for a short here. But the stimulus coming from the EU actually might just put pay to that. I have. Let me just double check around it. It's quite hectic, actually, Jeff. I can't believe how manic it's all looking. To be honest, look at this FTSE.
Yeah,
I mean,
the market's really a little bit different at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, this. Look at
read.
this. It's just about looking at a short, but the issue is, that all the signs are bullish for this market, but the price isn't good up here. So to try and take a short up here is fine, not a problem at all. You can see a kind of a little inverted head and shoulders potentially forming, and I do suspect the market is probably coming down. But I'm not comfortable with a short, just as I wasn't yesterday. I'm not comfortable with a short. I'm going to have to check some barometers here.
But you did go to sleep, right? You had some sleep last night.
I did. Do you know what? I didn't sleep for very long, but I do feel a bit fresher today. Yeah, there's no way we can short this market. It's hot. It's really, really hot. Really, what we want is to take advantage of a long if we can. Just looking around at the equities are surging right now to the upside. I suspect this might be the state of play, for a period where we just can't really get a decent handle on which direction we're going to go in from one day or one
wax
week
on,
to the
wax
next.
off. It's
Yes, it is.
Miyagi-san again.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So really, what I'd be looking at here is a market to come down.
I'll just shout out the entry for the short.
Oh no, mate, you go ahead, because I'm really got anything here, and I can review it in a minute. I'd actually quite like just a bit of time just to kind of get everything in order. That joining here was a bit manic, so let's do that. Let's get to the panel.
Co-host me. Oh, hang on, it might work this time. No, you will.
Let's co-host you. More. There you go.
More. That was what was his name? Can't think
Roger.
of his name. No. More.
Patrick.
The song More Than the Greatest Love the World Has Known. I'm not going to break into it because we'll get banned again.
Yeah.
Matt Monro. There you go.
Matt Monro. That's the Matt Monro.
Everybody knows Matt Monro, of course.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, we have got short entry on pound US dollar on the OCO at 1.2629. So we're just about 11 pips away from that at the moment. And our stop loss is 1.2703. I haven't actually placed the trade. I better do that, we better go. Well, it's asking me to go long first. I can do that. And
I will potentially have a trade on my end as well, potentially. But let's see how you go first. It could do with a little bit of time to flush out a little bit.
Okay, I'll be as quick as my.
Well, you don't have to be quick, mate.
Super fingers allow.
It could do with a little bit of time.
Okay, so the long is in place, and the short now. So just repeating those levels, the sell order is short at 126.29. And the long, or sorry, the stop loss for the short and the entry for the long is 1.2703. Interesting that the pound recovered.
Yes, mate. Yes, Brexit talks are back on the good side again. You know, and that's what it's going to be, isn't it? It's just, you know, Brexit goes well and the pound rallies, Brexit goes badly and the pound tanks, and it is all about Brexit. You know, that's the only really show in town for the pound.
Well, yeah, but there's a few shows in town for the others. Given what we heard overnight from the Fed, apparently, and coronavirus is also in the news as well. So,
yeah,
apparently the Fed have gone QE mad again.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So
and that's helped the rally.
That's why we've seen the dollar come off the pricks. They didn't have to do that, but they've taken my trailing stops on most of the position I was in. But anyway, it is what it is. At least we made a little bit of money, though we haven't got the reversals that I was looking for, but I haven't given up. I think they're still there, and I'll go through those in a little bit. Right, mate? All yours.
Okay. So my trade is on the euro dollar, and it is a short, so it is a pretty high risk trade, but I like how tight things can be here. Let me just bring.
Well, I'm a fan straight away. I don't have an entry myself at the moment, but I'm definitely bearish the euro.
Yeah, well, let's see what you think about this, mate, because this might be something of interest to you. Let's have a look here. I think there's a safer place to get into this. So it needs to weaken here. So really, you know, there are kind of like full parameters around here. Now you can see that the previous bar was this near but not quite engulfing bar. We've got a little line coming down, and we're right on top of that particular area now. So you know, it hasn't managed to get through there. So we know that we've got stops in this area here. So I think stops around about the 55 level look around about right to me. So that's what we'll get to first. So there's the stop level around about the 55 level. Now there's a safe entry. Well, the safer entry is under this bar here. So we can have a look at the safe entry under the bar, because the bar is incredibly positive. So considering how positive that bar is, I would suspect there's probably going to be some stops, you know, sat under that bar. And we got a really nice target down here as well. So we're going to have around about, say, a 1-to-1 if it triggers in. So that it's difficult, as you say, because you know what Jerome Powell has done has potentially weakened the dollar, and I don't know whether this is you know, if it's not going to if the dollar isn't going to strengthen, this isn't going to trigger, which is why this area down here looks like a pretty good area. Oh no, I haven't got calibration here. That's annoying. Okay, so let me see if I can quickly calibrate this, and then. Oh gosh, I'm not going to be able to do it, am I? No, you're not going to be able to do this. Oops. What I want is you. Oh, there we go. Right, let me just see where things are. It should be about there. Yeah, okay. There we go. Right, in actual fact, just as this goes up here, I don't think there's going to be an entry, but we could watch out for this. Coming up above this line is not particularly positive, but let's check this back in an hour, you know, because I quite like the way that the euro dollar looks at this stage. So if it isn't able to get through here, we can still look at this. So let's put it on the watch list rather than actually looking at any levels at this particular stage. But I'd say for a euro dollar short, is a short, and we are looking to go short around about the 1.325 area. Sorry, 1.3125 area. 1.3125.
You looking for right shoulder, mate?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am,
Yeah.
and I'll show you that in a second, actually. And that might be a better area to try and get in at. So 1.123 125 area would be a potential. I mean, the way this looks now, it's possible that there could be an entry there as well. So I think, in actual fact, let's not do any levels. Let's not do any levels. Let's just look for the euro dollar for a short and just see how it evolves here, because this bar might actually give us something. Let's just have a look on the 5-minute chart. 5-minute chart is suggesting as well that it's trying to get through here. Now, a negative bar here may well get me interested. Okay, it didn't end up too negative. But there is a tail here, so there is some weakness. We can actually see, price in action. We always talk about price action. Price in action is weak in this particular area. It's trying to sell it off. Maybe that dollar, maybe the news from the Fed doesn't provide us a selling opportunity. There's every chance of that. But if it settles down, that is going to suggest that news from the Fed hasn't taken the effect that I suppose that maybe the Fed is hoping for. Possibly, I don't know if they're trying to weaken the dollar or whether they're just going about their business. But the market would anticipate certainly a weak dollar here. So if it's unable to get through, I think that could spook people out a little bit. We might see some strength. It may be a bit early. That's the other potential aspect here, that maybe the dollar at this stage doesn't provide us with enough support to give us a trade. But what Jeff's talking about with the head and shoulders is when we look at this on a daily. I presume this is what you're talking about anyway, mate. When we look at this on a daily, then there is this head and shoulders pattern up here. So we got left shoulder going on here. Left shoulder, there's the head, and this is the potential right shoulder. Now, the best thing to do with the right shoulder is to try and pick it up on a trend line, and we have that because we have a trend line coming down from the hourly. Here. So we got a decent area for a right shoulder, but we haven't got the hourly setup currently going on. I quite like it, I think there's a lot to like about it, but obviously it has just provided some further upside. So we're going to have to wait on this one. We may get the opportunity later. The issue is going to be if this continues for a long period during the day, we may not be able to trade this until the Fed is finished. And the Fed aren't due to finish until 3 o'clock UK time. So we'll be able to watch this the movement in the US show later. So we might get this in the US show, but it looks right now that it might well be just a bit too difficult, even if we get that bar. But we'll see. We'll see if by the end of the session this bar is down here. I may take it on, mate. I may take it on and see if we can sell into the Fed. The Fed announcement, but otherwise we are waiting on that. The FTSE has also continued just to stretch its legs to the upside, and we can see global equities going. The problem now, and kicking myself a little bit because we're going to take a trade to stay in the FTSE long, but due to being a bit tired, I decided against it, which is no major deal.
That was after you were going to take a short. You were going to take a long, or was it the other way around? And then you were going to take a sideways one.
No, do you know what it was? What I said was that the market is shaping up for a short, but it's just too obvious. So
yes, that's exactly
I didn't.
What you said.
Yeah, I just didn't fancy it, and then it sort of like it gave me a pattern which I thought, you know what, it does. I could actually take this on long. But I did go against my better judgment in the end. And in fact, what I was saying was, if it does go short, then I'm out of sync. So if my sync is to be confirmed, then it needs to really be going up here. And that is what happened, which was really good. Yes, Shukri, you're absolutely right. So the doubts yesterday in taking the FTSE short, it was the third Monday, which is generally good for the S&P. Really good point, mate. Really, really good point. And that probably would have worked out. I don't know what happened with the S&P in the end yesterday. Let's have a quick look.
It was fairly volatile, I think.
It was fairly volatile, but what was the bar? It was a good bar though. Good bar. Buy on the open. Let's have a look if it would have.
Yeah, you would have got smashed.
It got stopped out, unfortunately. That's a shame.
There was some talk that this wasn't the third Monday in the review show on Sunday. I think from. No, look, don't quote me on this. I'd have to rewatch it because I don't pay that much attention to it, as you know. But pretty sure Julian was saying don't treat this as the third Monday.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which is great now, of course, for those of you who traded it. And that's why I really can't say anything because I'm not really up to it. But that kind of rings a bell.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, it's a shame because it was a green bar, so it was actually a positive close. But as you say, do you know the tricky thing is that we are not in an environment really where the stops probably at $25. That maybe they're not relevant in this particular period because the market is having movements of 100 to 200 pips a day, and in the FTSE, and that is at least 1.5% more than it has been, over the course of quite some time. So we are in a more stretched market. So I don't know whether those stops need to be pushed out a little bit to take advantage of that particular trade. But certainly, it gave.
Well, there you go. The guys are all over it. That's exactly what Julian did say. So my memory's spot on.
Right. You need
so
to
next Monday,
guys,
have a crack.
Yeah. Yeah, the next time round. Why the third Monday good for the S&P? That is probably for another day, Sino. We don't know why. Well, there's conjecture of why that it could be, but all it is the rule. Really, that's what we do. That's the strategy.
It doesn't matter why.
Yeah, we don't really kind of nobody's really delved into the reason. I'm sure Julian knows, but
have you ever traded it, Dash?
Do you know, I always I don't because I'm trading the FTSE. It's what you were talking about yesterday. It's the same trade, so it would probably be quite irresponsible of me to trade it in some respects. I do use it. I use it as a barometer for the FTSE, but I don't take part in it because the FTSE will pick up on in the same way. So if there's bullish price action, then I can take it. But to be honest, before I took the trade, before I was considering the trade yesterday, the third Monday was out of my mind, and I think if I was reminded of it, then I might have had a different view. It's just it's one of those things that will come around again, and we'll see if we can take advantage of it next time. If I remember, I need a little calendar, just to kind of stay on my screen.
I never remember. And Monday morning's not a good morning for me. I just don't go anywhere near the charts.
Yeah,
that's probably why I've never traded it. But yeah, I mean, it's got a great record. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Some of the other things that I was quite interested in as well, the CAD Swiss I found quite interesting when I was looking earlier on. Let me just double check whether. Yeah, this one looks really good actually at this stage. This was the other one that I liked. Where is it? Where's the CAD Swiss? CAD Swiss. Look at this on a daily chart. Maybe it needs to wait a day. I'm not too sure, but that does look really attractive, doesn't it? It looks like a really, really good potential trade there. Let me just double check this on. It's moving a bit swiftly, and it is actually. I like. Oh gosh, I wonder whether we might have missed that one.
We have been triggered short into the pound, by the way.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
What did was I up this Monday? Was I, Shukri? That's like 24 hours, 36 hours ago. I can't remember.
I've got a feeling. Might need to just pass you the screen momentarily, mate, just to see if I can.
Sure.
Just to see if I can figure out what's going on here. That's annoying, actually.
I'll take it.
Yeah, you take it. Might have missed this trade on the CAD Swiss. Let's see. I mean, there might be another opportunity here for a CAD Swiss short. It might be that we're looking at daily price action on that. Still liking this euro dollar short as well.
All right, I'll add my little 10 cents worth to that one, if you like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Before we go too much further. So what I see here is exactly what Ash, and that's why I asked, was Ash looking for a right shoulder? And it's in a good spot too, I've got to say. There's a nice little confluence area going on here where we've had broken support. Now we're back there again. It looks like that was a false break set up yesterday at some stage. Not yesterday, Friday at some stage. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No thought of entering that from me, given the 6 candles that are my expiry rule. And that's why I wouldn't have taken that false break. But I do like the right shoulder myself. And going back to my premise that I think the US dollar has to rally, thanks Fed. You just gave that a big prick with a pin, the balloon prick with a pin. But that's yet to be proven, whether the Fed has indeed made the dollar so weak that it just can't rally back to that area I was talking about, which is at the 98 mark. And that's my quandary. That really is the issue that I've got now. Had the Fed not opened their big mouths and done what they've done, then it'd be an entirely different story. But that's not the case, and we have to deal with that. So I'm looking for an entry, definitely, for the short, but I respect that this Fed announcement could hinder that process. Of course, we've got to get a setup, and I'm not just going to go bang, okay, I think I've got a head and shoulders, I'm going to enter the market. I need a setup that suits me. And as always, that's going to be a false break of resistance. So all I need to see is price really close above here, give me a couple of bars of consolidation, then come back underneath the trade line. Underneath the pivots would be awesome, and then retest the trade line pivots as well. Then I've got a trade to the short side, and I'd be more than happy to do that. What else have we got? We've got, actually, I will go through. We've been stopped. Our trading stops have been hit on quite a few of the positions that we have been in. I think the euro yen is the only one I've got going at the moment out of the 5 trades. Disappointing, really, because I thought we were in reversal territory, and thanks Fed again for upsetting that little apple cart. I don't think it's over, and I still think I'm looking for these reversals to take place. Perhaps we've got a decent price here if we can get into it. But we are out of, if I go back to this chart, we are out now of, I think, 4 of those 5 positions. Euro dollar was 1, and that's come back and taken our trailing stop. We, depended on how you manage that over the weekend and yesterday, whether that was a winner for you or whether that was a break-even trade, break-even at worst. And I do see this very much, again, as a point to look for an entry. It's the same chart that I just showed you, but there's a little addition there with that descending channel as well. So we are, if we come back underneath that, in good position, I think. Euro yen, as I said, the only one I had my stops just near entry on the first position, having taken profit on that. So that was a winning trade, not as much as I had anticipated. The second entry, which is this one here, 121.28, is out of the money at the moment, and I haven't taken profit on that. So I am very keen for this to sell off. And my stops are still where they were in the first place. So I've still got 0.25% risking on this one. And that's probably all I can say about it at this moment. I do... Well, so I like the fact that we've closed above the weekly pivot, but I like the fact that we've got a lower high sitting here. And that's one of my favorite lower highs, I've got to say, given that it is a buy bar, but it is also the rejection of DR1 today. If I wasn't in this trade already and at risk, I would certainly take that trade now. I'd be trading that one right there. But I am in this trade and I am at risk, so I won't be adding to the position until I get safe in the market. That's Euro Yen. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, Aussie CAD. We've also been stopped out of that one. That's a break-even trade for me. Probably shouldn't have been. It was an hourly trade, and really the only reason that it was a break-even trade and not an outright winner for me was that I went to sleep. And I'm not kidding. That's exactly what happened. Because if you get into an hourly trade, right, you're looking for a target. You're not looking to trail. You're not looking to do anything like that. But I absolutely went to sleep and didn't look at the charts on Friday, and you just should have taken profit at the weekly pivot. To be absolutely honest, didn't do that. My stupid fault, and for that reason, I've got a break-even trade rather than an outright winner. I'm hoping that those of you who were in on Thursday took that trade and actually took your profit where you should have taken your profit, because 30 minutes hourly trades, we're looking for a target, and that target's always going to be a support area. And in this case, it was the weekly pivot, which got hit very, very easily. That was a pretty cool trade, that one. Pound Aussie, yes, we are out of that now, and I'm pretty sad that we're out of that because I still think it's got prospects. And this is one of those that I still think is potential for reversal. This may well be an aversion point as far as I'm concerned, and we may see this just skyrocket through to here at some stage. Why? Got no idea. Absolutely no idea. From a fundamental point of view, I can't give you a reason. I can only say it's unlikely from a fundamental point of view. But I'm looking for an entry here again. And I think if we got above the pivots and put in a higher low here, then I would jump all over that. We are still in the higher low territory, if you like. And I'm looking for one. Maybe there was one there earlier in the day on an hourly chart that I might have liked. No, not really. No. So we'll just wait. We'll bide our time, and if we get the opportunity, then away we shall go. I lost a little bit on that, shouldn't have. And I said I think it was in the US session yesterday, maybe in this session even, that I was going to trail my stops under the weekly pivot to make myself safe in this. You got in, Swee? Awesome. Well done. And I didn't do that. That would have saved me the 2 of 3 positions that I was still in. Very tiny loss. It's no big deal. So, on the week, we're still ahead. I've got no dramas, but I am looking for this to keep going. I just can't believe the Aussie at the moment. Anyway, it's another story. And look, I'm really confused. As I said before, I find it fundamentally devoid of sense. And as we continue to say, the market will remain irrational far longer than we can remain solvent. So you've just got to be very careful here. And I'm doing exactly that. But I do see these potentials for this one to rally, technically only. Got no reason to think it can from any other point of view. But if it's there, and we will trade it. I don't, Pound CAD, I think you guys have got this OCO trade, haven't you? You should have. If not, I'll leave it up there for a couple of minutes. I think I placed this in this session. It might have been in the US session, I'm not sure. But if you haven't got it, it's there. It is an OCO trade. So once you get triggered long, you have to cancel the short. And if you get triggered short, you have to cancel the long. And it is based on a break of the monthly pivot to the high side and a break of last week's weekly pivot to the low side. US session. Okay. Can I show B, Alan? What's B? B. Chandra, dollar will crash 35%. News by one off Asia expert and investor Stephen Roach. Stephen Roach is a thug here in Australia. I hope he's not listening because he's a big thug and he hits very hard. He's a rugby league player and a former rugby league player. Pound Aussie OCO trade. Yeah, I can, mate. Sure, no problem. Gee, I hope you're right. And I hope I'm on board when that happens, Chandra. That sounds good to me. Dennis is alive then. Wow, Dennis Kim is alive then. Okay, bombings. Pound Aussie trade turned against us and stopped us out. Yes, it did, Sino, as did a lot of those positions that we're in, but fortunately they were trailing stops and not immediate stops. Shukri, this Monday, did I do something this Monday? Was I awake? I probably was. That, as I said, it's only 36 hours ago. And I still can't remember. Aussie CAD.
Liking this, I'm liking this Swiss CAD, mate. I like the Swiss CAD. I really like that that euro. I haven't really got the exact setup I want on the euro, and I'm a little bit concerned with the CAD that I might have missed it. But I'm going to wait on that one and see if there's a possibility, because there is still a possibility with the CAD. I don't know if you got something going on now, mate, or shall I just take the screen really quickly?
I'll just go through this one really quickly.
Yeah, it's no rush.
Aussie CAD 4-hour sell. I don't see the setup, but definitely I agree with you. We are now back inside this range, and I'll be looking for a lower high here. But I don't necessarily confine myself to the 4-hour chart. This could happen on the hourly, could happen on the 30-minute. So I'll be watching both of them. For Aussie CAD for a short, if you've got a way to get in there on the 4-hour chart, I think you've probably got a good chance of survival here. But I want to see that confirmation in a lower high at this point before I trade it. There you go, mate.
And fantastic. Yeah, I really like this euro dollar for a short.
Sorry. Before you take that, Alan wanted the levels on pound, and there they are, mate. So if you get the buy, you can cancel that. We're already in the sell, 126.29 with a stop loss at 127.03, and we are bang on the entry level at this very moment. This Monday on 22nd, and oh yeah, Shukri, yeah. Sorry, I thought you were saying that I actually did something on Monday morning. The only thing I did on Monday morning, I think, was stay in bed as long as I possibly could. Right, mate, all yours.
Yeah. So yeah, both these I like. I like this CAD Swiss. You know, I don't really like it down here. I think it's it would have been good to take this entry up here, but there might well be another entry. The price I'm really interested in is the round number, really, the 0.70000, all the zeros effectively. So I may well put an order in here. Let me see if I should. Yeah, I think I will. So I'm going to put an order in here on the CAD Swiss. I'll give you the levels. I can do this.
Hey, Lewis, did you get into dollar CAD, mate? While you're going, Ash, I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Looks like it's around about a 25 pip stop loss there. So it's CAD Swiss. And it's a short 0.7 and all the zeros with that's the entry. The stop loss at 0.725. 0.70, sorry, 25. So it's a 25 pip stop loss. Let's just double check the pivots here as well. Yeah, there's if it hasn't touched the pivot at that particular point, then taking profit around about the pivot area would be probably the best. I don't love doing that because that's not going to give us a great deal of risk to reward on our first half, which I don't like. I think I'd prefer to wait until the monthly pivot. So the take profit area is going to be down here at 0.6948 for a take profit. Let's call it 50. That's going to be our take profit area. So there should be enough room there, and I like this. You know, I like the bar that we have going on. We do need to see a little bit of upside. It's a bit too close to that daily pivot, isn't it, to try and take it here. So it doesn't look that attractive. And if there's nothing on, no big deal, because what we can do is just wait it out and see whether there is an opportunity on this daily bar. Looks like it's just coming off that weekly pivot. It may go up and test it a little bit later on, but let's see what we have by the end of the day. Possible as well, because the CAD is so closely correlated to what happens in the US that we should wait until 3 o'clock for this one too. So I've still got a few question marks on some of these, mate. But if the setup is clean, then I'll probably take it. And I kind of feel the same about the euro. I think the euro is a decent setup, or it's looking like a decent pattern. As Jeff pointed out, this head and shoulders pattern is looking really good. I think it looks like this trend line as well is just about holding from here. May well get an engulfing bar, an engulfing bar followed by, an almost engulfing bar followed by an engulfing bar. And if that was to happen, that would look fairly bearish. That would look really bearish for the euro. And we do, we do have this area down here to take profit, and it would be wise to take profit here, because what might start to happen is, rather than it being the head and shoulders on the daily, it could play out, but we might start to see just an inverted head and shoulders on the hourly, which might push us back into this area again. Not necessarily beyond, but it might push us back into that area again. So whether we're going to have the chance to hold on, I don't know. We've still got another 25 minutes before this bar closes, but it's looking pretty weak. If we look at just in some detail on some shorter term timeframes here, the 15 is on an area of support right now. There's this horizontal level probably going along that point there, maybe a shade higher, and it's holding up. It continues to hold up. So it does suggest that the safest place to get in is below this bar, below this particular price point. A little bit difficult when you consider how close the take profit area is going to be. So not ideal, but we do have this evening star as well, going on up here, and it's a pretty strong one too. So there are signs and signals of potential weakness here with the euro dollar. But as I say, the Fed is the elephant in the room, and it could be the fly in the ointment for us, and that particular speech or announcement may put this trade on a bit of a hiatus for a little while. And things are still quite positive, and it looks like they're positive because of what's going on with the Fed. We see the FTSE 100 continuing to push to the upside off that weekly pivot. Quite happy to take it long, but not here. I would really wanted it just a little bit lower. But the FTSE does look like it is on its way to the upside. It does put into question a little bit about the Swissy as well, but I quite like the price. I like the setup. So if the setup's clean, I'll take it. If not, then we're waiting for later on. We should really check the oil market, which on this one is, did you say it's XTI, didn't you, Jeff?
XTI, mate. Yeah.
XTI. So if we're looking at the CAD, then we do need to check out what's going on with the patterns with oil, and it's just under the weekly pivot here, but not a bad price. I wouldn't mind seeing this break down just to give us a bit more confidence on that particular currency. So it might be just a little bit of waiting going on while I look around these. I think your comment earlier was right, mate. It's a bit of a weird market today in many respects. And I think some of that might be because of the stuff going on with the Fed.
Look, they've thrown a real spanner in the works for me. I really am peeved with them. Not that they'll care too much about that, I've got to say, but
no,
I didn't need that. Everything was looking nice. Everything was just setting up beautifully, and then, that's trading. That happens, day in, day out. Something up with which we must put. It's a real pain in the bum when it does happen. Yeah,
it's interesting. I think also kind of checking where your head's at is really important. And I had to do it yesterday, and actually I've missed out on quite a nice trade. But I don't really feel ready today either, if I'm honest. I feel a bit rushed, and I think maybe some of it is because we're dealing with Zoom and everything else. Trying to get into the market.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, it's not great, is it? So, you know, I am feeling a bit rushed and under pressure to try and get things going on here. It may well be the market, you know, maybe the market is just flipping around just a bit too much for me. So,
Yeah, look, I don't think we need rush to get into trades right now. I think there's a little bit of toing and froing going on. I think we're on the teeter-totter, and I'm not sure if we're wax on or wax off yet.
yeah,
Really don't
yeah.
know.
Well, do you know the other thing I have to recognize is that this is historically my worst week. You know, week three is usually a bad week for me in comparison to the rest of the month. You know, if I come out at break even for a week like this, then I'm usually pretty happy. I tend to make my money at the first and last week of the month, so that's the other factor. You know, is kind of there's a bit of jostling going on. I find it just a little bit more difficult to get a decent read and handle on the market. Now that doesn't, which what that tends to say to me is that patience is going to be much more important than a general overview, which are, you know, a lot of the times I'm quite happy to trade on a bit of an overview, but these weeks tend to be, you know, a bit more tricky. So I think waiting for a cleaner setup is probably going to be a bit more important for me today. So they're the ones that I like. I like the CAD Swiss for a short. I like the Euro dollar for a short. Whether I get the trade on, I don't know, but I'll bring it to you guys. If you tend to have a better week three than I do, then by all means, you know, take advantage of the fact that you could ride this one. What is the S and B news? The Swiss National Bank news. Let's have a look. I don't see any Swiss National Bank news. Don't see any Swiss National Bank news. We got the Fed out later. But aside from that, I don't see anything else. The thing is, that is also playing on my mind a little bit is because the Swissy is risk off. You know, if we think of like risk on, risk off, just as a general kind of barometer of where we are and what we want to do, because the Swissy is a risk off currency, we look like we're in risk on, don't we? You know, it looks like the market is in risk on, and just looking at oil isn't really tanking. You know, it's not like we should be necessarily looking at shorts in the CAT. But because the Swissy tends to be a risk-off currency, and we are risk-on currently anyway, albeit in a little
For
bit
the moment, yeah.
yeah, and this is the thing, isn't it? You know, we've been talking about the big R for the last week, and the big R is reversal or retracement. And if we bring us back to the FTSE or the S&P, would probably be a better kind of gauge on it. If we bring this back to the S&P, the S&P had a few days of downside here, and this is in this area. The question is, does any pop to the upside become a reversal, or does it become, or is this area down here a retracement? Now, currently, or certainly initially, we have to treat this as a retracement because it hasn't broken structure. So until it breaks this low, then really we are in retracement mode. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that you know, that the challenge we have to read what's happening here isn't any easier, because it's not. It's quite tricky because this is a really strong bar, and it's a really strong sell off to the downside. I think, as you commented at the start of the show as well, Jeff, you know, that there are other factors going on, you know, globally, specifically, I suppose, you know, with China and the infection rate seeming to creep up again. Because of the highly populated market, the difficulty that you know, from a UK's perspective, that they've now got with the Huawei deal. So you know, that's kind of putting things in a bit of jeopardy. Trade deals between the US and the EU, potential trade deals between between China and the EU as well, and then you get stimulus packages. So
China
there
and
are
Australia, China and
China,
everywhere.
yeah, there are some real challenges out there that we've got to navigate through at this particular stage, and it's not making it any easier. But by the same token, if we're looking at the chart patterns, the chart right now is saying this is a retracement leg, and we really should be on the upside in global equities. That doesn't mean that we've got our timing right necessarily, but global equities do appear to still be in the confident mode, which does put the Swissy in a bit of a difficult corner in some respects. So we're going to have to kind of like take things. We're going to have to take things, as we see them, but also kind of like continue to consider what kind of phase we are in, because the last thing we want to do is be waiting for things to happen. If we wait for the UK to announce that the trade deal is going well, then what happens is you miss a decent move in the euro pound. But actually, it's coming back, so this one might be of interest as well. Euro pound for a short could be pretty good. Let me double check it.
So I know you're exactly right. Going back to your comment way back when we were talking about the euro, I'll tell you why I wouldn't take that trade very shortly.
Yeah, it's nothing clean. Nothing clean. Nothing clean. I think from a personal perspective, mate, I'm not very comfortable here with what I'm seeing. I think this first period as we opened up has been maybe more volatile even than we've seen recently. Even more volatile than normal. Like in the look of these 4-hour bars though on the euro dollar. As we continue to progress here, so I still think there's an opportunity with this, but maybe when you just need to see a little bit more calming down. This looks really good, doesn't it? When we're kind of looking at this on a 4-hour chart, that looks like a really clean head and shoulders pattern going on there. No, I wonder if it's long enough.
Yep. As Sino says, there's a case for the long as well on a 30-minute chart, and I'll point that out very shortly. But I wouldn't be taking that long.
Yeah, but yeah, that'd be great if you could point that out, mate. Do you know the head and shoulders? If we are going to get some kind of symmetry here, that's 17 on a 4-hour basis ends there. Now, what time frame does that give us? 16th. What's the date today? 16th at 8 o'clock. Yeah, that does start to suggest that maybe we need to listen to the Fed. 6 o'clock. Yeah, I'm going to wait, mate. The head and shoulders pattern, just the way that this is forming is suggesting for symmetry. We might well need to wait for the Fed announcement. I'm not going to get caught into anything at this particular stage, but I think this session is a let everybody else kind of get in and burn their account up, and we'll just sit on the sidelines and wait for a proper signal.
Yeah, look, I'm cool with that, and I think it's very wise to do. FOMO is something that I got over quite some time ago, and FOLO is my weakness, not FOMO. I don't really care too much if I miss the first entry on something, but I hate losing. Just a losing hater, I'll put it that way.
What's the so Helen, where did you get that from? It was pegged a number of years ago.
Yeah, the Euro Swiss. Was it the 1st of January 2015? I think that happened. From memory, without bringing up a chart, but bring up a chart if you want to, by all means. We all remember that. Anybody who was trading at that time remembers that very well.
Yeah. I was trading, but I actually wasn't trading so much in currencies there. So
I certainly wasn't trading Euro Swissy, thank God.
2015 gets us back.
Yeah, you can't miss it.
This is it.
There it is.
You see, that's when it was at the 120 level, and when they unpegged it, it just, oof, gosh, that wiped a lot of people out.
Yeah, not only people, brokers, as Helen points out, there went to the wall. that's some serious movement right there. And the problem's not so much the move in and of itself. There's just no way you can get out of that.
No.
Once
And
that
it's
happens, you're
interesting,
gone.
I think the other thing is that sometimes you just don't know whether people are writing because they haven't got anything else to talk about. So they give you they write an article because that's almost a historic article which has got no relevance of where we are today, but they haven't really got any other information, so they kind of go back and go, okay, what can we muddle up here? There's so much noise, isn't there, in the media?
Yeah, like, I think I told you before. I don't know the guy personally, but I know the guy who knows the guy, who was approached by, and I won't name the publication, but it was a reputable, I'll put it that way, in my mind, no longer, but it was a reputable publication here in Australia who was looking for somebody to give them, I think it was tips on the ASX, I'm not sure, every Monday morning.
Oh,
and this guy just said, "Oh, look, there's no way I can do that. There may not be something Monday mornings." He's being completely frank with them. And they said, "Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to win. It just has to be an article."
Yeah.
And I thought, "Hey, that's great, isn't it? Fantastic. Let's just put these people in a position where they think they're getting information that's actually considered and by a professional. And they're going to pay him $1,000 a week just to do that."
Yeah.
People magazine. No, I don't think so, Dennis. It was actually a financial publication. When did you play with Blocker, Dennis? And I hope you haven't given him my address. 12 years ago, they're comparing it to Hong Kong dollar unpegged speculation. 12 years ago, 5 years ago, or 5.5 years ago. Oh, okay. In the Aussie schoolboys. Isn't that amazing? I was picked to trial for the first Australian schoolboy side. And I didn't go to the trial. Silly me. Well, maybe not silly me. I might have been bumping heads with you blokes. No, I was well before that. 1972, 72, 73, something like that. It was the first Australian schoolboy side that toured England.
Just the question, Sino, on which strategy that I'm trading the CAD Swiss on. It's just price action. That's all it is. I'm just looking at I've got a pattern here. I'm just looking at the chart, and I'm not using any ATW strategy that is learned really. It's just a general kind of like eyeballing the market and going, well, that looks like I've got a price pattern there. It looks to me like I've got a head and shoulders. Whoops. I've got this. I've got a break here. Potential bar, which maybe this means that it is for tomorrow. I don't know, but it looks like there's some resistance there, as you know. So I'm just looking at it. It's just basic support and resistance, mate. There's no strategy really involved in this. I just quite like the look of it. On just a simple price action basis, which is, I mean, I say there's no strategy involved. That's where everything that I do starts from. I know when it comes down to learning how to trade, it's really important to kind of understand your indicators. But every indicator is driven by price, and every strategy is ultimately driven by what's happening in the charts. We all learn when we start about the cycles in the market and trying to pick up a trade with cyclicity, right? I mean, that's what we're looking for. So what I have, what's that, mate?
I never did. I was never taught trend, which is why I think I don't really have anything to do with it, frankly.
Yeah, well, that's probably true, mate. I mean, to be honest, I guess I'm speaking on a general term from the participants that go on the ATW courses.
No, I think that's pretty general. I think it's very much a case that most people are taught to trade with the trend. The
Yeah.
trend is your friend, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think everybody who starts pretty much taught that.
And if we're looking at trading with a trend, then the law of trading with a trend is that you are, no matter what indicator you're trying to use, you're just trying to see a point in the market that it might turn. So if this is a high, and I've got, in fact, I've got higher low here, higher low here, higher low here, higher low here, and then all of a sudden I've got a low. So now what I'm looking for is the potential for the trend to break. So can I get the lower high? And this is the that's the basic form of what we're trying to do, isn't it? Can we pick up the lower high? So can we pick up the first down drift draft in the trend? For something to change. And there's two places that I personally like to look. And the first one would be on a trend line, which is this. Happy to look in the trend line. And the second one would be on a horizontal price point, and the horizontal price point's along there. So it hasn't come up to that point. So what that means is that I can really look for potential shorting opportunities right the way up and along here. Now, as I say, it might be a bit early, but by the time that this one's cleared out, it might be down here. So there might not be an opportunity. But, if the bar looks like that tomorrow, I think it's a cleaner signal. It will be a cleaner signal. It'll be much better, right? But I suppose because I'm much more interested in price points than what an indicator will tell me. And I've got a price point here. So when I see that price point on a daily chart, then I'm just going to switch down to my shorter term timeframes and see, is there any resistance there? And what I've now got is this pattern. And there's my pattern there. It's this rising wedge. Really like it. I really like the rising wedge. So when I look at the rising wedge, then I'm thinking, well, can I trade it at the top end of the rising wedge, get to the bottom potentially, and possibly take some profit, or at least move stops to break even, which is my personal favorite way to do something. So I'm just looking at the top end of this and thinking, can I get in? I mean, unfortunately, it's come down, from that point. But I could now be trading back to the horizontal level. I could be looking at horizontal level on this hourly. So if it pops up to that point, then I've got my lower high there. So again, I'm looking at trend here and saying, well, I've got a high point here, and I've got my pattern. I've got a low here, and I've got a higher low here, and now I've got a low. So really, what I'm looking for is a lower high. And then you can take that one. So that's that's all I'm doing. I'm not trading strategy per se, indicators or anything like that. This one is just purely on price, and I quite like to do that on currencies as well. I find currencies just a bit cleaner than some of these indices. But by the same token, the best trades that I take do have a fundamental bias involved in them. And right now, I don't really have one with this, so it's a trade that I'd be happy to take a punt on, but it would be a punt because at this stage I really haven't got any other color, with this to be able to take. And it's the same with the euro. At this stage, I don't have any color, but what I do know is that color could be provided here with a Fed announcement. And look at that. Now we're getting an engulfing bar on the hourly. This is looking good, isn't it? That looks really good.
You're keen on this, aren't you?
I am, mate. I am. I mean, I think some of the issue that, and maybe one of the reasons that I might well avoid taking it is that I would prefer to get in this earlier on. And as I always say to you, I hate missing my first entry. I find it,
yeah.
I find it really frustrating.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, but yeah, I know it gets to you.
Yeah. It kind of, it starts to cloud my judgment a little bit. So I may not get into this, but I do think that these are valid trades, and I don't need to be in every trade. I don't need to be in every market that moves. I'd love to be, but I don't need to be. My account is currently sitting at 6% up the month already, and I'm only really 2 weeks in, so it does make me a little bit more cautious when I'm looking at potential entries. But if I miss my trade, then I'm much more likely to go, you know what, I'm going to have to wait now for another clean signal to get in. And is trading the bar itself wouldn't be it for me. You know, I want to go down a few time frames. Can I get a real pinpoint accurate entry? And if I can't, then I can't. So, but I would bring it to you guys, because if there's a strategy that that you've learned that allows you to get into this, then I think these two are really good for the watch list: Euro Dollar and CAD Swiss. I think they're really good potential moves in a downward direction.
Mate, I'm a fan of Euro Dollar, no question about that. I'm looking for an entry. There's potentially one on the way on the hourly chart, and I'll give that to you in just a tick when you're done, and I'll tell you guys why I wouldn't take the long at the moment, which is Sino pointed out was a slingshot setup, and is, no question.
Yeah. Okay, mate. Yeah, you go ahead. I am done, I think.
Rightio. I will do exactly that. And sharing. Wow, look at the time. We've got new candles already. All right, so, and here's another little shot over the bow, I suppose, for the long Sino. I've got the 30-minute chart sitting here, and what I'm looking at is actually not as clear as I thought it was, but we have come back underneath this trend line here, which really gave us a hint earlier. And if you were really, really paying attention in the afternoon session, that bar there was probably tradable as a false break. Would have expired, I've got to say, under my rules, but this may be the second opportunity if we get a buyer bar now. And what I'm looking for is a false break of this trend line. And this trend line is very much an intraday scenario. So we're coming back from Friday across yesterday's high. And now I think we're back underneath that. I'd really like to see a retest of that now. And that would get me short. Now for the long Sino, reason I wouldn't take the long is there. Got the weekly pivot and the daily pivot very close together. Daily pivot untested. And for that reason, I wouldn't be trading away from it. It's possible to go long, but gee, it would be high risk without that daily pivot test and trading straight into DR1. I just don't think that's a high probability move to make. But I continue to see what you're seeing. There's definitely the third test. If you look at the 30-minute chart, there was a little pullback away from that. There's another one, now another one. So it's giving us a hint that it could break to the high side. I've got no qualms about that. The hourly chart's exactly the same. Even this bar here, that bar there, from a slingshot point of view, eminently tradable. But had you taken that one, you'd be gone. And had you taken this one, you wouldn't be triggered at this point in time. This one now, the last hourly bar at 35 pips is asking a bit much of the market. Why? Because if we started the day here, we've gone 40 pips away from the daily pivot. We're asking price to go another at least 35 pips to give us, what, 1-to-1 even. And by the time we've taken profit on the first take profit, we're then got half to one. So we've got to go double that again to get to what really is a worthwhile profit situation. So you've got to get from there probably 110, 120 pips from the start of the day. And that just is not conducive to the, well, I don't think it's conducive, or it shouldn't be, to the current ATR. So let's have a look at that. The ATR, I think I'll switch to a daily chart. The current ATR on euro dollar is, let's go, well, there's 20 days, that'll do. The last 20 days, the ATR on euro dollar is 90 pips. So you're really asking it to go well outside that to give you a reasonable profit margin for the day. Look what it got up to when it went into that high volatility situation when we first heard about COVID-19. 180 pips, man, that's really good. That gives you a supreme opportunity to make some money. And we did make a little bit, that's true. But now we've come back off and the volatility's gone, as you can see, and we're flattened that. I shouldn't say flatten the curve out. I'm so sick of hearing that, to be fair. But we're now back to, look, if it would stay, around about this level, 90 pips is okay. Somewhere between 90 and 100 pips. That's a pretty good level of average true range on the euro. And I'd be very, very happy with that. That looks like a false break there to me. That's of the top channel. That's on a daily chart. That's not a true indicator. It's not a trade line, I'll put it that way. And that's why I haven't really paid that much attention to it. But yeah, a buyer bar now. That does give us an opportunity to trade short. We're underneath the low of the day. That's cool. But we must take profit here before we hit the weekly pivot. So I'm on board with you, Ash, but I don't see an entry at the moment, I'm afraid. But happy to go with it.
What's that with the euro?
Very, very quickly through the rest of the majors before I call it quits. Dollar yen, gee whiz, this is so hard to trade. Really is so hard to trade. I saw this going way, way above where we are. Let me go probably to that chart. I thought we might even test the top of this channel again before we went short again, pursuant to that dollar index chart that we've been looking at for the last week or so. But as I say, the Fed's put a spanner in the works there, and I'm really not sure right now what happens next. If you look at every one of these monthly bars for the last 6 months, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, every single one of them is an indecisive candle. Every single one. If you look at the weekly chart, we're going up and down in the one spot. We're at the same level now as we were back here in May of 2019. And not much has happened in that entire time. Really, really tough, I think, this dollar yen to pick. Daily chart, we've broken the bottom of that little short term, if you like. When I say short term, we're only going back a couple of months. Ascending channel, we've already had a false break to the high side. Are we going to get a false break to the low side, or are we going to bounce off the bottom of it? Question mark, question mark. Excellent question. I've got no idea, to be absolutely frank with you. And when the Fed makes comments like they did and take action like they say they're going to do overnight, that really just makes it that much harder. So I think I'm steering clear of dollar yen at the moment with a bias to the yes side. I don't know. I really don't know. Aussie US dollar, I'm still a bear Aussie US dollar. And that's a combination of things. But really, because I saw the dollar opportunity to rally back to that 98 level, and the pressure that China is putting on the Australian economy at the moment as well. That is yet to manifest, of course, and if it does, then the Aussies will just simply disappear off this chart very, very quickly. But it hasn't done that because they haven't, China, that is, haven't really pressed the button on the big numbers, which, of course, are coal and iron ore. They're still buying those. And no tariffs placed thereon. Until that happens, then I suppose the Aussie can stay buoyant, certainly against the US dollar, which is goodness knows doing what. That's what makes it hard. Dollar CAD. Dollar CAD, we were talking about this in TTR US session yesterday, and Lewis was asking me whether I could see an opportunity to trade this short. And I said, absolutely be on board with that if I could find a way in. And I was in bed by the time there was any semblance of a way in. That the only semblance of a way in really was that bar there for me on an hourly chart as a false break of this trade line. So break, consolidate, back underneath, bounce off the daily pivot, bullish bar, looking for an entry there. All you got was that, which is, you know, precious little more than 1-to-1, and now you're back in negative territory. So probably a break-even trade. That's the best that we could do. Probably still a chance for that to go shorts, but who knows? Who knows what the market's going to do with what the Fed said. And as Ash has pointed out a few times, there is a testimony from Powell coming up this evening as well. I'm still short biased all of these things that have had a little bit of retracement. Double tops here, lower highs, lower lows. Now we've gone into consolidation. I think a significant lower high here at the daily pivot would get me interested in dollar Swiss short. And finally, the Kiwi. This looks like it's on its way to an aversion point to me. And if you don't know what an aversion point is, look up, you just Google sentiment cycle. And there you will see a picture that looks very similar to that on the 30-minute chart. Not so much the daily chart, but the 30-minute chart you will. And whether it's relevant on the 30-minute chart is questionable as well, I've got to say. But there is the hint of break of the descending channel, test of the weekly pivot. Maybe this is destined for another test of these highs. I'm not on board with that, I've got to say. I can see downside in Kiwi US dollar, but again, that's reliant pretty heavily on that US dollar index going back to that 98 level that I keep harping about. So that's pretty much it. Your euro pound, Ash, I think has now got an opportunity maybe to go back to the bottom of this range. And I think we're still guessing as to what the market is going to do, but this is on my watch list, certainly. And if I do get a lower high here, I will look to trade this back to the bottom of the range, certainly taking profit at the monthly pivot. Pounds. If this bar closes in 4 minutes time, where as a bearish bar as it is, we can then move our stops to here, limiting any potential damage that we would have suffered had price bounced back and taken our stop loss. So we are in the shorts, and so far looking okay. The weekly pivot's going to have a say here without question. If we do get a close below it, then and a little bit of a retest, that's probably our best opportunity to make some decent money today. We did okay yesterday. I did better than probably most because I went to sleep with my stop here, I think. Might have been here, I can't quite remember. And I didn't set any EA. I was just woke up this morning and, oh, we're up here somewhere. Happy days. And I managed to get my trading stop to here before I got taken out with these bars here. But I think there was probably this one. That's where you should have got stopped out on that trail there, which is very, very close to where we entered the market today. Interesting, isn't it? Not a whole lot changes in 24 hours. If you look at the markets in that vein, and when you do look at the market in that vein, it underlines what I've been saying for, I suppose, the whole of the session. It's Miyagi-san territory. Wax on, wax off. That's all from me.
Yeah, okay, mate. Me too. I think may well be some opportunities later on. The market is just kind of bobbing around at the minute. I don't see the FTSE really kind of picking up any momentum to the upside, and there's still a chance that we are in reversal modes. You know, we got to treat it as retracement, but we're still potentially reversing here. So I think we come back and check it in the US session, and I think it'd be quite good because we can lead ourselves into that Powell test of when Powell testifies as well. So we can have a quick listen to that and see if there's some trades lining up then. But yeah, aside from that, mate, let's get back into it tomorrow and see what we got.
Yep, as Dennis says, the euro yen is looking a little bit more friendly at the moment. That's cool. Let's hope it can get below the lows of the day and we can get some more money in the bank. That'd be good.
All right, fantastic. All right, guys.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks as always for listening in. We will be back tomorrow, same trade time, same trade channel. See you tomorrow then at 5 to 8.
That's a date. Don't be late.